and welcome back. Today's episode is going to be a slightly different format. So as you know, we've now started also to doing videos. And in just because it's not interesting to see me alone with the plant, we have a special guest today, Liron, Fibonacci's head of operations. And our topic for today is actually a very interesting topic, something that has been asked quite a lot by many of you. I'm gonna do the introduction. So they say that sex sells. So I'd like to start this off with a quote by the great Dan Ariely. Data is like teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so everybody claims that they're doing it. And this is going to be the topic for today. Not teenage sex, data. It's great to have you, Liron.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. Now that we've made this amazing segue, maybe we can start with something simple and basic. What is data? What are we talking about?
So data is basically the base for analysis. It is the lifeblood of, I think, almost anything. And it provides valuable insights into the customer's behavior, the market trends, and the business performance. We can use the data we can take the data from parameters that we have in our gateway, and by leveraging the data effectively, we as a PSP and specifically the merchants, because we said we're going to talk about the merchants, can make informed decisions, locate issues, identify trends, and basically enhance the customer experience.
So that's actually a very important point that you've mentioned. We talked about when we talked about this podcast and what we want to focus on during this episode, because data is a very big topic, and we can talk about this for days. But we wanted to make this episode specifically about merchants, data that is relevant for merchants, and to give some recommendations, best practices, and things that would be beneficial more for merchants. So I know some of our listeners are not necessarily on the merchant side; they're more on the acquiring side or the PSP side of things. So I think this would still be interesting for you, but our perspective is mostly going to be from the merchant side. And it's important to know that. So when we're talking about data, what kinds of data do we have, or do we typically collect?
So typically we have data about the transaction, and we also have data about the customer. When we're talking about the transaction, when we're talking about the specific item that was purchased or service, the amount, date and time, the payment method that was used. And when we're talking about the customer, then the personal details that we have about him, which can be the name, the address, the email, sometimes phone number, etc.
And who is collecting this data? Because some of it is collected by the merchant themselves, so they collect the data. Some of it is collected by the PSP.
Correct. So there is a certain visibility to the merchant into the items that appear on our gateway. But for example, if a merchant wishes, I'm just giving an example now, if he has a card number that he sees that is getting declined very often, and he would like to check why, then he can use our information, the experience that we have, and also if the same card was used for other purchases with other merchants that we have, and then we can check it and tell him, this is related to maybe the issuer, maybe the region, maybe the card type, and then we can help him reach the decision of what to do with it, and if there is an issue, solve the issue.
I think you hit the nail on the head with something that a lot of people, at least from my conversations throughout the years with a lot of merchants, it's something that they are not always aware of, is that they themselves, but also the PSP is sitting on a lot of data, and they could tap into that data and start using it to make different analysis and different decisions based on this analysis, many things that they may not be aware of them. Now I know, because we talked about it beforehand, that you do have a couple of examples of this, so maybe you could share that.
For example, we had recently a case with a specific merchant when we collected and analyzed the user agent information.
By user agent, you mean like the device type and the language of the browser, the versions, etc.
Yes. So we saw that most of his customers were using a device in the Spanish language when his website is actually in English, only English. So we contacted him. We told him what we saw, and we suggested that he adds the Spanish language also to his website, which basically can make a better user experience and also can attract more merchants if this is customers if this is the target or one of the biggest target audiences.
This is actually an excellent example, because I think again, from conversations with merchants, a lot of times what they think is that looking at data or analyzing the data is something that can only be used for risk purposes, but we promised we're not going to talk about risk, or for technical purposes. But this is a good example for using the data for business-related decisions, because at the end of the day, if you can understand your customers better, you can cater the whole user experience or the customer experience better, and then you improve. You improve the experience. You improve the number of sales. You make it more attractive.
Exactly.
So this is more of a business marketing thing.
Exactly. You can tailor the marketing according to the preferences, and give him specific special offers according to the specific items that they see that he purchased. So that can help them make more profit, obviously.
Okay, that's great. Can you give me another example?
Yes, and this relates to the previous example that I gave with a problematic card number. So if there is a specific issue that is known to be problematic,
by issuer you mean the bank or financial institution that issued the card?
Yes, exactly. And so there are ways to handle it and to adjust the payment process. So in order to override this problem, so we can add a pop-up message. There's a problem with your card, please try use another card, for example,
or a different payment method,
or a different payment method, exactly. So there are always ways that we can use the flow and the data analysis that we have in order to again make the customer journey will be much better, and also that leads to more profits for the merchant.
I think, even if I do say so myself, I think we've done a really good job at convincing people that this is important and that they should pay attention to this, and they should be doing it more if they haven't done this yet, or if they're not doing it yet. How would they go about this? So, what are the... If I'm a merchant, I'm not looking at data, or I'm very minimally looking at data, how would I go about this? Where is my data?
So the basic and most common way to receive that data is by using a CSV file. There are, again, I mentioned our gateway that can give them the specific information. It could be other relevant information from a third party they're connected to. Usually there's the option of downloading reports to a CSV file, and we can analyze.
Just to clarify here, because I'm not sure how technical everyone is listening. So when we say CSV, we mean basically it's the non-branded Excel file. Yeah.
Yes. So of course there are other solutions such as Google Sheets, but Excel is really, I think, the most robust tool that can handle a large amount of information. Now for the more progressive ones, there are other tools, more advanced tools such as Tableau, BigQuery, and
Power BI.
Power BI.
Yeah, Power BI.
Power BI, Domo, such tools, and by using these tools can also lead us to something else. They enable us to make visualizations.
Now that's something also important that we've previously discussed, because this is a step that I feel a lot of organizations, not just merchants, a lot of organizations actually skip that step. So they take the data, they analyze the data, they may they draw conclusions, but they don't necessarily reflect the data in a visual way. And I think we both agreed that this is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So just to add before that also a very important thing to remember, that in order to analyze, we first need to understand what do we want to check, what is the business question, and the visualization is basically a graphical representation of the analysis and the data. It makes it easier for us to see patterns, market trends, and then basically to reach conclusions and understand if there is an issue, where is the issue, and make after that a deeper analysis of that specific problem that we see in the data.
It's actually a very good point, and that's something that we always say, and I would say that I would just add to this and emphasize that the most important thing to do before you even start touching the data, first of all, collect all the data that you can. Also, another thing is the best practice for merchants: find out what data you're collecting. Some of it may be collected intentionally, so you know what you're collecting, because let's say you're asking merchants, please provide me with your email address. Some data you are collecting inadvertently or without even realizing that you're collecting, because it's just taken automatically by systems that you're using. Check the providers that you're working with. It could be a CRM system, it could be a website hosting provider, etc. It could be a PSP, as we've mentioned. What kind of data are they collecting, and what kind of data can you get access to? Because not everything that is collected, unfortunately, you can get access to for a variety of reasons, regulatory, etc., technical. And once you have all of this data, before you start playing around with it, ask yourself, what do you want to know? And that is a very important part that I see oftentimes merchants skip. So they get excited by all of this new shiny data that they have, and they start playing around with it. But if you ask stupid questions, you're going to get stupid answers. So you need to be very, very clear on what do we want to know. For instance, to take the example that you gave, are there any specific issuers or payment methods that are better or worse than others? That would be a very good question. Another good question, my clients, where are they coming from? Geographic market, linguistic differentiation, could be, depending on the type of data that you collect, age groups, male, female, different demographic characterizations. These are examples of questions that you want to know. What are just spinning off from some of the data examples that you gave. When is my peak times for the business? That would be very easy to do. What is the typical, the best-selling products that we have? What are typical combinations if we start cross-referencing different data points? So women between the ages of 18 and 35 are more prone to buying this product at this time of the day. I have more male clients in the state of Tennessee compared to California. I don't know, different things that you can really understand when you start asking the right questions and then playing around with the data based on that. And I would say last, to combine this with the visual things, you need to think on what is the best way to show your data.
Exactly. Yes.
So
there are several types of graphs, maps, and charts that we can use, and we should adjust the information that we would like to show to the right visualization, as you mentioned. So usually bar charts are used in order to show quantities, for example, sales, or if there's a certain target that we need to reach, where are we, and with regards to the end goal. There's also a line chart that is usually used to show trends for a certain time period or something like that. We can also use more than one line in order to compare different products or different age groups or whatever it is that we need to check. And there's a pie chart that is mostly used in order to compare the relationship between different parts of a whole. And there are other ways, of course. There are maps, as you mentioned for geographical
representations.
Yeah. So there are many ways, and there are also, we need to take into consideration the user's preferences, because there could be a company, for example, where they use only bars because this is the preferable way of visualization. So that is also something we consider to choose the preferences that will be liked by the end audience.
I think that's a very important point, because from my experience, if you're the one that is playing around with the data, you're the one doing the analysis, and you are also the decision maker, or the one that needs to take action based on the conclusions that you derive from the analysis, you can skip the data visualization, because by doing the analysis you've already gotten these conclusions. But
you're familiar with the trends and everything.
Exactly. But if you need to present this to somebody else, you have to use visualization. And this is the primary mistake, that because people think that, I've played around with the data, I see the conclusion, everybody else will probably look at the data and will come to the same conclusion. This is not the case. So oftentimes what we see is that people they look at the data and they either get to completely different conclusions, or the scope of the data, the amount of the data, the way just looking at numbers scares people. I mean, not you. You like the data, that gets you excited, but like other people see numbers or facts and figures, and they lose it. So the visualization is very, very important, especially if you need to present the data to other decision makers, or even if you are the decision maker but you want to show this to somebody else and get their opinion, you have to use data visualization. And I would maybe contradict something that you said, because you mentioned that if you know that your target audience is using a specific type of visualization, then adapt your visualization to that. I understand why you would say that, but I would kind of disagree, because sometimes people use something because they're used to using it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right one. And I would say, challenge this. If your organization only uses pie charts, but you think that the best way to visualize the data is using bar charts, challenge this conception. Don't put it in a pie chart, because you might lose some of the conclusions because of this.
Right. There should be some logic behind it. And I agree with what you say. It's better to try new and more suitable visualization than just be stuck with one thing that might not be relevant for this specific information. The question is how open the people are.
Yeah, I mean, but that's part of what we do and why we're having this podcast. So we want to sort of expose this topic to a lot of people that may not be aware of it or thinking about it or making it a priority. So here's us saying, make it a priority. It is. There is a reason why everyone is saying that we live in the age of information. Information and data is all around us, and we have to start using this and being able to make data-driven decisions rather than just going with gut feelings and things like that. So just to summarize some of the key points that we've mentioned in terms of just repeating the best practices. So one, if you don't have access to your data, get access to your data, understand what you're collecting, what is collected on your behalf by different parties that you work with, and how you can access that data. Once you get access to this data, start thinking of the questions that you want to receive answers for. It is also, we didn't talk about this, but it is something that I just thought of. When you ask your questions, you may realize that you are missing data in order to answer this question, and then you may decide to start collecting certain additional data in order to be able to answer your questions or to better answer the questions. Then once you have your questions, you have your answers, start thinking on what would be the best way to visualize this so you have a better insight, or other people may have a better insight of all of these answers and conclusions. And then rinse and repeat, and then continue to do this in everything. And if there's one thing I learned about data, and I know you agree with me on this, spoiler alert, I'm kind of translating from Hebrew here, but the thing with data is that with the food comes the appetite. So once you start playing with data, you want to start playing with everything and all of the data, both on a professional and also on a personal level. So this is a warning to everyone. We're going to make you addicted to data, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
At all. It's not a bad thing at all. You find out a lot of things that you didn't necessarily think of. Sometimes there are issues that you find and need to address them that you weren't aware of. So it's always a good thing.
Amazing. On that happy note, I'd like to thank you for joining our podcast.
Thank you too.
For those of you who might be worried, the plant is still here. It's just out of frame. Still alive and well, no yellow leaves. And the idea for this podcast actually came from some of the emails that you wrote. One complaining that we only talk about risk, but also asking for us to talk about data, especially from the merchant's perspective. So this one's for you. Keep on writing to us, asking for different things for us to talk about. We always appreciate and love your feedback. Stay awesome. Thank you.
Bye.